There is a wonderful proverb in English: nothing is certain but death and taxes. And especially nowadays, because of this coronavirus pandemic, I mean, I know about myself how many plans I have changed, and I know about everyone else nowadays. So we do not know for how long the pandemic will last. We do not know when, for example, some people can go to school, or some children can go to school, when you can fly to your country. I was born in the Soviet Union, so for example, nowadays there are hardly any flights from Russia to other parts of the world, and we can continue. So, what is resilience, and how can being resilient help us in such troubled times as this coronavirus pandemic?
Resilience, I think, can be summed up in two expressions, and one of them is basically stability. So resilience is the ability to maintain a certain amount of stability no matter what's going on around you and in you. And the other is the concept of bouncing back. Resilience is the ability to bounce back. If you're in such a physical and psychological and spiritual condition that some kind of crisis or some kind of misfortune lays you flat for weeks at a time, that's not very resilient. Even though, mind you, there are things such as a death in the family or losing a job or things like that where it's proper to be laid flat for a couple of weeks or something you need to recover from. But you know, your everyday kind of problems, you should be able to just go, oh, okay, move on. You should be able to bounce back, and that's what resilience is about.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And how do I know if I am resilient or not? Can you tell me, for example, what should I tell you that you decide if I'm resilient or not, or can I decide it myself if I'm resilient?
I think you can decide for yourself. It's you know, I think everybody has this kind of experience of dealing with a crisis, a problem, and then noticing that it seems to be taking too long to recover. Mm-hmm. That the toll that this particular experience is having on you and your life is out of proportion to what it should be. Mm-hmm. And if that's your experience, that you feel like it's taking me too long to get over things, then you could use more resilience.
Mm-hmm. You know, Theo, maybe about half a year ago, I had a workshop, The Psychology of Happiness and the habits of happy people. And one of the participants after this workshop came to me and she said that now I just realized how unhappy I have been since I lost my husband. And I asked her, like, when your husband died, and it was just maybe like 15 years before that. So, and imagine, and she said, and she told me that every single day after the death of her husband had been a very unhappy day. So, for example, for a person like this, we can say that she was not resilient.
I would hesitate to characterize that way. And one of the things I'd like to emphasize is that I am a trainer of various sorts. You know, I've given training in corporate soft skills. I've given training in martial arts. I've taught languages, et cetera, et cetera. I even teach meditation, but I'm not a therapist.
Mm-hmm.
And so if somebody comes to me with something that I identify that's beyond my scope, that there's a problem bigger than I should deal with, then I will recommend somebody to go see somebody who's competent in that area. And this would be one of the cases. If somebody came to me and said, I've been unhappy for 15 years since my husband died, I might recommend that person get counseling of some sort. I mean, either with their the clergyman at their church, or a psychologist, or anything, but somebody who is competent to deal with something like that. So I think that goes beyond like the resilience that I'm talking about.
Actually, this is what I also did. I recommended to her someone she could turn with this question.
I mean, her problem may have started with a lack of resilience, but then if it lasted 15 years, it went beyond. There's something deep there. She has my sympathy. That's a long time to feel grief.
And what is the difference between how people who are resilient and people who are not resilient face adversity? If we think about adversity like this coronavirus pandemic.
I think there are two elements to that. The one element is basically how strongly you've built up the foundations of your own being, and that is physically, mentally, and spiritually. That have you built up certain habits? Have you built up routines that strengthen you physically and mentally and spiritually? And this aspect of it has to do with, it's almost a dirty word with some people, but it has to do with discipline. That there are simply certain things that you're not going to acquire in life unless you decide that I'm going to do something 3 times a week, or I'm going to do something every day, or whatever the practice is. There are these things. That's the thing, the building up of your core, so that you have the energy and you have the emotional stability, and a kind of a vision of the future that keeps pulling you ahead. So those 3 elements. The other side of that is it's kind of this Zen type of being able to let go and being flexible, which I think has always been important, but it is increasingly important in the world that we live in now, where just simply the idea of what is work, and how do you find work, and how do you exist within an organization, and how do families take the pressure of change, et cetera, is that it has become more and more important for us to be able to simply look at situations and accept the fact that it won't go the way I want it to. I need to find an alternative.
And what do you think? According to some researchers, resilience is trait-like. So just like hardwired into our personality. And some other researchers say that you can learn it and you can acquire it in your life. And I myself, maybe for about 8 years, I have been practicing meditation, mindfulness meditation. My favorite person in mindfulness is John Kabat-Zinn. And I have done
the creator. Yeah.
Yes, the father of this kind of meditation. And I very frequently listen to his interviews, to his videos. At home, I have a number of his books, and he also talks very frequently about resilience. Which point of view do you support? The first one, that it's just like in us, either we are resilient or not, or you support the point of view of researchers who say that that you can strengthen it, you can develop it.
I'm going to cheat, and I'm going to say both are right. But I think the absolute parallel to that is the debate about talent versus effort. And so that some people are more naturally musically talented, but experience has shown, research has shown that given the right circumstances and instruction, almost anybody can learn to play music or to sing or to what have you. So I think it's the same. I think some people are just naturally more chill than others. Some people take things more easily than others. Some people, either because of their physiological makeup or because of their life experience, have more anxiety than others. But beyond that baseline, I think it's something that everybody can learn. Everybody can learn to be more resilient. It can be learned. I know, for instance, myself, most people never suspect it. They always think that I'm one of those chill people they know, but I am somewhat of a worrier. That I have to be able to. Over years I've had to learn to deal with my worrying nature, and I've become more resilient over time.
And could you mention some strategies which can help us to build resilience?
Well, the first one that is everybody thinks of right away these days is meditation. There's nothing that really cuts through the level of anxiety that we tend to live with these days, like mindfulness meditation. The research on it is overwhelming. Most people don't know this, and I'll conspiratorially say that the reason we don't know about this is because scientific studies which show that you're better off meditating every day than taking prescription drugs don't get financed very well in academia. But nevertheless, there have been thousands, and I mean it, thousands, like maybe even tens of thousands of university studies done in medical centers and psychology departments and everywhere, directly measuring the effect, the beneficial effects of mindfulness meditation, and with very, very few exceptions, they have seen significant effects, beneficial effects on hypertension, anxiety, heart problems, digestion problems, you name it. I mean, I swear, you can name just about any malady of the human body and the human mind, and research has shown that meditation has significant beneficial effects on it.
A few years ago, I attended a lecture of two psychologists who practice mindfulness meditation. They're from Oxford. In Oxford Clinic, they also have this meditation. There is this mindfulness meditation center.
Then there's the physical aspect of exercise, but it goes beyond exercise. It's not just I mean, naturally, CrossFit training will make you healthier and make your mind more alert and make you more relaxed. But there are specific kinds of movements that are more effective than others. So somebody who does yoga and is more aware of like what's going on with the energy movement while they're doing yoga is going to develop some very good resilience. Different kinds of breathing exercises that go with martial arts, and so there is a physical component to it that harmonizing what's going on in your body makes you more resilient. It makes it easier to relax, and in general gives you more energy. And the third part is the spiritual aspect, is that especially nowadays, you know, people are feeling lost. You know, they don't know what the future is, and the key to getting past that is having self-knowledge, knowing who you are and what you're in this world for. And if you have a path, if you have some idea of where you are heading, and you don't allow circumstances to knock you off that course too far, or you can keep getting back on the course, that also gives you resilience. The idea of something to live for.
Mhm. Actually, what you have just mentioned, I mean, everything makes absolute sense to me. I myself started doing yoga about 8 years ago, and at the very beginning of September, my daughter, who is a yoga instructor, and I, they're going to have a 3-day workshop. It's on mindfulness, yoga, and a hike retreat, and I'm going to talk about the psychology of happiness. And I remember when I started doing yoga, it was not only my body, so it was not like I could move much better. My back was like straight, but it was harmony, more harmony. And the same was true with this mindfulness meditation.